All right, let's get started. Tension, throw. Chungyi. Good. Okay, let's just start jogging on the spot. Let's talk about that Chungyi where you step, and hopefully you'll have enough space, but there's a step from your walking stance into an elf stance. I see students make a lot of mistakes with this because they don't prepare the next step. So I'll do this from the forward, so hopefully it'll demonstrate what's happening. So I'm in a walking stance, I'm going to turn to face the camera, but I turn with my leg quite wide. Okay, my leg is out quite wide, and I end up stepping across, and then the step becomes unpredictable. I then find I'm either not stepped wide enough and I lose balance, or I go too wide and I'm falling forwards. Okay, so it's very hard when you have your foot traveling around you to get that placement correct as you step. So here's what I get my guys to do. I turn, pivot, and my foot comes tight, comes in to my other foot, and I pivot on the spot. And at this point I'm chambered, hips are chambered, then I step forwards and do the block, rather than kind of get into that unpredictable swing. The worst places you'll tend to see it is where you're doing 360s or you're going around sort of 270s. You're coming from this position here, down gun is a good one. There's that example there. So quite often you'll see people will overstep or understep that turn. By pivoting, coming in, keeping the foot tight, they get to be able to execute the step under control. So what we're going to do is we're going to just, hopefully you've got enough to do a pivoting step. So you'll go from walking stance to walking stance, okay, and then back to walking stance. And we'll do it turning backwards. So we'll do it just for a low out of forearm block for now. So from here we're going to turn, low out of forearm block. We're going to turn backwards again, chamber, low out of forearm block. Make sure you turn, pause, and then place your foot. Don't let your foot swing down. Have a go, 10 in your own time. Go. When you're done 10, just so we don't get dizzy, let's do 10 with the other leg. So you're gonna, and again, we're still turning backwards. So we're coming from this position here, turning backwards, pause, gather ourselves, and block. Step up, pivot, pause, and block. Have a go. Let's go on to Dangun. Dangun tall. In your own time. Current ups. CJ. Okay, so I don't want to, there's so much we can do in the later hour with lots of techniques. I don't want to get overly bogged down in any complexities, but I do want to address things based, in this case, yellow belt positioning, yellow belt level. So for the yellow belts out there, when you do your low block, rising block, continuous, so you go here, 1, 2. There's a few things I need you to have a think about. So firstly, let's briefly talk about this continuous motion and fast motion. To separate continuous motion and fast motion is simply, fast motion is one breath with multiple techniques. Continuous motion is breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. With 2 techniques put together. Never any more than 2 techniques. Okay, if there's any more than 2 techniques put together, more often than not, as in P1 for the black belts, it's fast motion. So low block, rising block, here, 1, 2. So you're going to see 2 things. Breathe in, chamber, breathe out, execution. Breathe in, chamber, breathe out, execution. But what I want you to see, yellow belts I'm talking to, and obviously anybody that's interested, you need to get kinetic energy back into this. It's no good doing a low block, and if you look at where my head is, in line with, in fact, let me get my head right in line of the edge of the flag there. Okay, so from this position here, it's no good me now turning my hips in, moving forwards to then dropping backwards. So you should see my head going forwards of the flag and dropping backwards. Okay, that's no good doing that. You've got to get kinetic energy into the technique. So you execute the first one, straighten your leg, bend your back knee, and bring your hips backwards, okay, to then snap forwards. So you straighten the front leg, well, not straighten it, but you're going to extend the front leg, let the hips pull backwards to drop forward. Then you should be seeing my movement going backwards and forwards. Okay, so try and apply that when you do that low block, rising block. Okay, Chumbi. have a go, down going, think about that low block, rise the block, think about it, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and 1, pull back, 2, go. Let's go on Dosan, Chumbi, Dosan tall, current ups, Sija. All right, okay, so let's just very quickly in Dosan, so green stripes, when you do your straight fingertip thrust, I've seen many ways of doing it. And again, let me just, let me put out there, I don't mind how my students do it. If they go to an instructor and they see a version of it and the instructor explains how it's done and they think, oh, that's really great, that suits me, it makes it easier for me to do that, and they come back and explain it and it makes sense, I've got no problems with them doing it. So, but here's one of the ones that I do want to bring your attention to. From this position here, if you extend this arm, okay, and you turn sideways without bringing the hand across, okay, you'll run the risk of getting caught up in the ground. Let me try and explain, without a partner this will be challenging, but I'm going to try and explain why. So from the side view, as I extend and rotate my wrist here, if I turn sideways on, the muscle group I'm now using to pull this arm in has completely changed. And I've put myself at a disadvantage, okay? So what I need to try and do is when I do this release, what I tend to do is I tend to just allow the hip to snap forwards at 45 degrees, this way here, and as you snap that hip forwards, just snap the arm forwards. Now, you won't see this, but if I do this at 45 degrees, when I snap into my sitting stance, my hand is still in front of me. It's not to the side. It may only look like it's coming in a fraction, okay, and that is, it's coming in, if we look, think about a clock face, I've gone from 12 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So I've not come in a great deal, but I've come in sufficiently enough that the structure of my body is supporting it. The other thing that you can consider as well is, as you do that, whether you want to tip that slightly downwards. And what you're encouraging is obviously the release for them to pull them off balance as well. So the combination of snapping forwards, bringing the hand in, and dropping it down a fraction is really a very effective way of doing it. So let's just have a quick go going forwards. So get as back as far as you can. All right, right leg forward, straight fingertip thrust, and then it's that snap here, spin, back fist. And then move to the back of the room. Left leg forward here, 1, snap, other leg, spin, back fist. I'll go off at a slight angle. So you're tending to do this before you do the release. I don't know whether that's intentional or whether it's just something you're unaware of, but try and keep this arm straight. Try not, as soon as you flex it, you're now going to encourage reaction in the person grabbing, and actually you put that arm in a weak position. You need your whole body behind this. The whole torso is what's doing all the work here. As soon as you bend the arm, you create a reaction, and you then require the hand and arm to do the work. So just everybody have a go at that, and just make. So another tendency with this is when you turn inwards, there's a tendency to turn your shoulders, and a lot of people, they go from a walking stance to a walking stance. If I look from here, walking stance here, and they twist and they turn to a walking stance. The problem with that, if I now face you in that walking stance, is I'm now put my arm back into that vulnerable position again. Okay, I've turned sideways on, so I've weakened it. So what you've got to try and do, try not to go too far into the walking stance. Stop it at sitting stance, and just let the hands come across. Sitting stance, let's say your sitting stance is your finished release position. Okay, you're not going from walking stance to walking stance, because you then run the risk of, you turn the arm over, you tip forwards, and you will weaken it. You want to keep this, it's okay to drop it, but you still want to keep this square, very powerful position. A couple more goes and we'll move on. Go. But yeah, don't, if this is something that you've been told differently, have a go at it. But you've got to respect your instructor, and if your instructor wants it done a particular way, that's the way you do it. And again, this is not about me saying this is how you should do it. This is me telling you this is how the mechanics of your body will improve that technique. Now that will be relevant whether you're 5 foot tall or 7 foot tall, okay? And you know, if you're in a position where you're being taught, and again, this comes back to the general, you know, perfected the techniques of Taekwondo based on him and his mirror image. You know, if he stood beside me now, he'd be about here. And I'd probably cover him with the width of one arm. So I'm very different in my build and my shape, but the change of technique has to also be there. So, and we'll go on to that a little bit later on, but for those of you at that grade, you know, have a go at it, enjoy what you're having a go at doing, but, you know, stick with what your instructors, you know, what your instructor likes to see if it's different.